Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for joining this call. And I'm Subbu. I'll be discussing about how you can integrate Vertex AI with Sitecore today. And I think this is my third or fourth presentation in your user group. Thank you so much for having me. I'm working as a senior director of technology at Altido, and I'm a three times technology MVP. And I write blogs at subu.ca/blogs, and I built some of the modules like OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, and Sitecore, and a few other modules like the Teams app and Chrome extension. Some of them I've presented in your user group before. Please do check out the modules available in this GitHub repository, and let me know if you have any feedback. I'll be reachable in Twitter and Slack if you have any questions. Today we'll be starting with some of the history, what happened in the industry, AI industry for quite some time, like because everything started around 2022, and things have evolved so much now. So let's look at some of the history, what happened around Azure OpenAI, Vertex AI, Google, and a few other AI platforms which are provided by Meta and a few other frameworks. So we'll look at those history, what has happened, and then we'll dive into what is Vertex AI, why we need Vertex AI when some of the problems can be solved with Azure OpenAI. And then we'll dive deep into what is RAG architecture, and we'll look at a demo of the Vertex AI platform. So in 2022, the GPT 3.5 was released. Before that, the team was working on GPT 1 and 2. Those were successful, but could not make any impact in the industry. But the 3.5 release had made a lot of impact. It had 175 billion parameters. These parameters are a combination of weights and biases, which determines how accurate a model can respond. And 175 billion is too high. Because of that, since it has a lot of parameters, it was able to respond accurately to the questions that we asked for. And with this 3.5 release, they also launched the chat GPT, with which we can interact with the model. It's an interface with which we can interact with the model, and it's one of the use case of the model where you can chat and ask a question and it can answer. And that was very powerful, and we were able to get a lot of benefit with this chat GPT. And the DALI 2 was also launched, which is text to image conversion model. And we had certain open source models released by Bloom and a few other platforms as well. So everything started around 2022, around November, around that time frame. And during the first half of 2023, ChatGPT had 100 million users, which was a breakthrough. And then ChatGPT also released the plugins and API. So when the ChatGPT was released, it was very powerful. It was able to answer the questions that we asked for, but it was not useful for us. Meaning, in the website, we were not able to integrate that, and we were not able to benefit from the power of the Gen AI. But when the plugins and the API were released, we were able to integrate that into our website and a few other areas, maybe behind the scenes, like orchestrating any data or a few other platforms. We were able to use it, and we were able to benefit in the first half of 2023, which was again another breakthrough. And ChatGPT 4, the GPT-4 was launched. It had 1 trillion parameters, which was almost 10 times higher than the previous model, and was able to even give better accurate responses. And the whisper speech to model, all of these were very powerful. And Google was also entering into the game. It was trying to compete with it, with the OpenAI, with the Bard and Palm 2 model, but it was not able to compete much. And we had a lot of controversies, if you guys remember. And the Llama models was also released around that time frame, which was from the Meta. It was an open source model. And during the second half of 2023, Gemini 1.0 was launched. This was again a breakthrough in the industry. Gemini was the Google's product. The Bard and Palm 2, we know it was not able to compete with OpenAI, but the Gemini one was a little closer to what OpenAI could offer. And it was making some disruptions in the industry, but not too much. And then the ChatGPT 4 was supporting multimodal inputs as well at that time. And it accepted both text and image together. And we were able to ask a question which combines different types of inputs together. And ChatGPT was responding well for those questions. And the GPT-4 Turbo Vision was also released, which was again another powerful breakthrough. And the Llama 2 and Falcon, these are the open source model which were released. And these open source models were integrated in Azure AI Studio at that time. In the second half of 2023, we were able to use these models from Azure AI Studio as well. Even now, you can go to Azure AI Studio, and you don't have to purchase any OpenAI models, GPT-4 or anything, but you can just get benefit from these open source models which are available in the Azure AI Studio. These are not like very powerful like GPT models, but still it can solve some of the problems, and you may be able to benefit with these now. And during the first half of 2024, Gemini 1.5 was launched. This was a breakthrough in the Google space because it had 1 to 2 million token limits. So the Gemini Pro model had 2 million token limit, and Gemini Flash, which can respond faster for the questions, had 1 million token limit. This is a breakthrough because even now the GPT's powerful model still has only 128K token limit. And this token limit, to understand this token limit, we will look at the RAG architecture I'll be covering in the upcoming slides. But this token limit is important for the RAG architecture. Like you'll not be able to, your model will be, like your data has to be like very structured if you have like a limited token limit to be able to get a proper response from the models. And like when we dive deep into the RAG architecture, you'll be able to understand like what is the importance of this higher token limit which is offered by the Google. And then in the first half of 2024, we had certain integrations with Google Workspace. The Gemini was integrated there, and even now in Gmail and other platforms, like you'll be able to use this Gemini models, and you'll be able to benefit from those. And the Vertex AI Agent Builder was also released around that time. Here is where like you can build those agents quickly. You can build those chat interfaces and search interfaces and any recommendation engines, all of these together. You can build it easily with this specific platform. And like with just few button clicks, you can build it. And this is what we will be discussing in today's presentation. And this is similar to the Azure AI Studio, but in case of Azure AI Studio, you will have to define everything, and you have to deploy it into an Azure web app. And you will be needing to manage the Azure web app plus all of the models as well. But in case of Vertex AI Agent Builder, you will have to manage only the models, and you don't have to manage the app, because the app itself is a kind of like a SaaS platform hosted within the Google space. And the open source models were also integrated in the Vertex AI, similar to the Azure AI Studio. And you can go and use any Llama models or anything available as open source within the Vertex AI as well now today. And the Google search grounding was also introduced. This is another breakthrough in the Gemini space. Because today, if you look at any of the GPT models, these were pre-trained only till a specific date, like September 2021 or October 2023. It is the knowledge is limited to only a specific time frame, and it doesn't have like any real-time access to the internet. But in case of these Gemini models, these have access to the internet. If you ask any specific question, and if you enable the Google search grounding, it will be able to pull the details from the internet, and it will be able to respond. And this is another piece which we'll be discussing in today's call. I have a demo around this as well today. And the GPT-4 was released, which was again another major release from the OpenAI, and also OpenAI point. Like OpenAI releases any model, and Azure OpenAI gets that model and releases as Azure OpenAI model from that space. It's basically they both are partners, right? Like Microsoft and OpenAI are partners. So whenever a model is released by OpenAI, within like 2-3 weeks time, you can expect that model to be released from the Azure OpenAI platform as well. Okay. And with this, in summary, in the first half of 2024, Google was able to make an impact with these higher token limit and Google search grounding, and it was able to compete with Azure OpenAI, but still it was not an par. Like it is still behind what Azure OpenAI can offer. And in the second half of 2024, Gemini has made even more better advancements, and which includes reduced price. It's like 50% lower cost than Azure OpenAI, and it has lower latency as well and higher rate limits than the previous model. And with this, it is able to compete with Azure OpenAI up to some extent. So if you look at the market share, it's around like 7 to 10% roughly, and Azure has, I think, roughly about like 50-60 plus, if I remember correct, but you have to research online and look into that. But Gemini has grown much faster over the last 6 months to 1 year. So let's look into the RAG architecture first at a high level, so you can understand what is RAG, and then we'll dive deeper into why we need Vertex AI at this time. In case of RAG, it is called retrieval augmented generation. Basically, all of these models that you see, like they are pre-trained only till a specific date, right? But the Google model is also pre-trained only till a specific date, but it also has access to the real world internet through the search grounding that they have. But in case of the GPT models and even the Google models as well, it is pre-trained only till a specific date. So it has knowledge only till like September 2021 or 2023. So if you ask any questions which is after that, it will try to come up with a response, but it won't be very accurate. So how we can solve this? And the other problem is like it is not trained in your knowledge base, right? It is available. It is trained in the web pages which you are exposing to the internet, but your client might have some data which is in their own SharePoint and which is not available to the internet, right? So those knowledge base, which is specific to you and not available to the so those knowledge base which are not available to public will not be used for training the models, right? So if you ask any questions to the model around your internal knowledge base, it won't be able to answer. So if you are trying to integrate this into your website, you need to make sure it has access to those information, right? So that's where this retrieval augmented generation comes into picture. So whenever you have an input, you have to attach the search results. Basically, if somebody asks like any questions around your knowledge base, then you need to do a search within your platform, within your SharePoint or any other repository that you have, and get the associated documents, maybe the top 3 or top 5 documents, and which is nothing but the search results. And you have to get those search results and attach it with the user input, or like basically whatever is the question that the user has asked, and you have to send it to the LLM. LLM is nothing but the model. And this is called retrieval. You retrieve from your knowledge base and you augment it. And with the user's question, the search results will be attached to the user's question and it will be sent to the model. And when it's sent, then the model will be able to generate an output based on the information that you give. In layman terms, if you go to ChatGPT and if you provide a paragraph and if you ask it to summarize it into bullet points, it does, right? Because it has the context of what it means, what is the information that you provide, plus the instruction, and with that it is able to do the summarization, right? So just similar to that, like you have the user's input and you attach it with the search results from your specific knowledge base, and then you augment it and you send it to the model, and the model will be able to generate the output. It's as simple as that. This is called the RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation. And so now diving into why we need Vertex AI at this point in time when we have Azure OpenAI, which is able to solve most of the problems that we have. The first thing is it comes with 1 million token limit. So in the previous diagram, we saw that in the RAG architecture, you have to include the search results, right? So those search results, you can limit it to only the top 3 or top 4 or top 5, right? Like whichever fits within the 128K token limit from the Azure OpenAI, right? So that was the limitation. So you will not if a user asks the questions around like what are the products that you have, then in case if you have a specific listing page which lists all the products together in your website, or if you have a document, then you can supplement that in this as a search result, and the model will be able to generate the response providing all of the products, right? But let's assume like you don't have a listing page, and if you have like let's say 100 products and 100 product listing pages individually, but you don't have a single page which has like 100 product pages but not a single combined listing page, if you don't have it, then you will need to supply all the 100 documents, right? Only then the model will be able to summarize it and say, okay, these are the products that I offer, right? So that's where the Gemini comes. Like if your data is not structured for the user's question, which will be in most of the cases, like this is one example that I'm sharing, but in most of the cases, we cannot expect the user's question, like the user can ask any question and your data cannot be summarized for like you cannot organize your data for all kinds of questions that the user can ask. So in that case, this 1 million token limit is very helpful because you can do a search and you can pass all of these documents together and the Gemini will be able to summarize and give you all the response, but because it has 1 million token limit per request. But in case of Azure OpenAI, you have only 128K token limit. So this is first benefit of Vertex AI. The second one is the Google search grounding. So in any chat application, there will be some need for the bot to know what is happening in the real world, right? For example, if a travel client, like their bot will need to know what's the weather of different sites, right? So one way to solve is using the weather API, right? But the challenge is when you use the weather API, you will be limited to only the set of cities that your API has access to, right? But if like for example, if it's a small town, then your API might not be able to cover it, but then a different weather provider might be able to cover it, right? So in this case, if you do a Google search, then at least from like 3 or 4 weather API providers, like one of the API providers might have the response in Google for that specific town, and you'll be able to send the response back, right? And you don't have to like code specifically for that, like creating the API and working on those security, all of these, like you don't have to worry about, and you can like make a Google search call, and the Google search will return a result. And Google search, when it returns a result, it doesn't return the result simply. Like it will try to do like 3 4 Google searches in 3 4 popular pages, trusted websites, and then it will compare the data, and then if it will validate, and if only if it's correct, if how it validates is if the response is the same from like 3 or 4 websites, then it will respond back to the user. And in case if the response is not correct, it will say that I'm not able to find an accurate response, but this is the information that I sourced from 3 different websites or 4 different websites, right? So it will be very very clear on what it was able to find in Google search and if it's trusted or not, and you will be able to determine in your prompts, and you can use that information, right? So this is one example. And if you work with any financial website, there will be like several things which will be changing, like the interest rates and like the contribution limits for different things. Like that is one of the use cases which you'll be seeing today in the demo. So those contribution limits, like multiple factors, changes pretty frequently, which is publicly available information provided by the government, right? And latest news, like even in the financial app, like if somebody is asking a question, what's the latest news in the industry that impacts the stock market, that might be one of the questions that your user can ask. And you will be able to source that information from the internet, and you can provide it back to the user there in the chat window itself, so that the user need not go to a Google search. For instance, if the user is trying to do a Google search, they'll go to the Google, and sometimes they might see an ad, and they might not come back to your site again, right? So retention is very critical. So you can do a Google search for them, and you can present it, and you can show that this was sourced from the Google. And in your prompt, you can control from which all websites it can bring the data from. It can be only government websites or those other websites. Like you can specify which website it has to search for and get those results. And similarly, if you have like any product, like and if a user is asking a question which is on the competitor side, and your bot can still access those information, and it can compare the prices and any dynamic pricing also you can do with this specific benefit of Vertex AI. And also the supporting partner website. If for example, if you have a product, and if the user has another product, and if your product has to fit within the product, the user can ask a question like, I already have this product A, and can I buy your product B? Will it be compatible with this? Then you can do a Google search, and you can match, right? So there are several use cases where your bot will need to know the Google search or the real world internet access, and those problems could be solved with this capability of Vertex AI. And the third one is it has extensive integrations with multiple social medias. You can build your agent, and that whatever conversations that the agent is having with the bot can anytime be transferred to a real-time agent as well. And those integrations are feasible. Like you can integrate it with Google Chat or any other external messenger or any other chat applications as well. And this is a little more affordable pricing compared to the Azure OpenAI, because it is 50% cheaper. So these are all the benefits that we saw, but there are a few things which you have to keep in mind before selecting Vertex AI as a platform. And anytime when you work on any of the applications, it's recommended to try 2 3 models. If you are working on any AI projects, try 2 3 models and see which one is responding better and which one would work better for your client's use, and then try to use that model. And in this case, before you choose Vertex AI, you have to keep in mind that it's Google Cloud Platform. It's different than Azure. When you work with Sitecore projects, most of the times the client might be having Azure as their hosting platform, and they might not have Google Cloud Platform. But sometimes they will have for Google Analytics or any other capabilities that they get from Google as well. So in that case, it's fine. But if they don't have access to any of the Google products, then it might be overhead, because you have to purchase Google Cloud Platform and you have to manage that continuously. But one thing to remember is like with XM Cloud and Picture, we may get clients who are not in the Azure space itself, who might be having Google Cloud Platform as their primary provider, right? So in those cases, still this will work as an option. And the next one is the higher latency for certain queries, right? For certain queries, I'm finding the Google Gemini Flash model to be responding faster, and for certain like Azure OpenAI is responding faster. So we have tried in few different use cases and few different solutions that we have, and we have found that sometimes it takes 1 second to respond, and sometimes it takes 3 seconds to respond. But while Azure OpenAI consistently responds in 2 seconds. But these are still in preview mode, so we can expect that a lot of things will be improved sooner. But still, like if you think like any of the benefits which you saw in the previous slide is helpful for you, then you can opt for the Vertex. So for building RAG solutions, Google has two options within its portfolio. First is the AI Studio, and the other one is the Agent Builder. We will look into a quick overview of what these are in real time. Like I'll show you the demonstration of those two shortly. But at a high level, this AI Studio is a comprehensive platform. It helps you to build and train ML models. And if you want to like build any custom frameworks, like there are like several AI frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, all of these. If you want to work together with all of these, and if you want to do any kind of complex tasks like which works around the data, like prediction models, like and recommendations, those kind of things, you may be benefiting from the AI Studio, but then it has like a lot of overhead because you have to select the model, you have to train it, and you have to build all of those data sets, everything together. Like you have a lot of work in orchestrating everything. And in our use case, like we work mostly with the web platforms, and we don't work a lot with the data. So for our use cases, like AI Studio might not be a great fit, but this also solves certain complex problems. Agent Builder is something which will work for our use case because most of the times, like we integrate something with the web, right? So we might build any chat application or search or recommendations or any of these. So in that case, Agent Builder comes with certain pre-built templates which you can just like do some button clicks and you can select. And behind the scenes, it has its own. It selects the data stores in which you store the data because when you work with the RAG application, there needs to be a data store where all of your data has to be stored. Like if your data is from Sitecore or from SharePoint, all of these have to be put into the data store, and then from the data store, these agent builders models will be able to access and provide you the response. And it has integrations with all of those other Google AI services as well. And it's less complex. And if you want any quicker solution, like you'll be able to build everything pretty quickly. And it also has options to customize things like with the extensions and all of these are achievable with Agent Builder. I'll quickly show you what is this AI Studio and the Agent Builder, and then we'll dive into the demo of Agent Builder. This is the Vertex AI Studio, and here you have this model garden. Like here you can select different models, like some of them are open source and some of them are provided by Google. So all of these, like you can select and you can train all of those models as well. And there are pipelines, you can do some kind of customizations. And here this Workbench and Collab Enterprise, like these are the platforms like where you can build your own frameworks, AI frameworks, customize and validate things. And this is the AI Studio where you have the chat, like you can build your own prompts and validate with the Gemini different AI models you can try, and you can select the Google search grounding, like multiple things. Like you can kind of like play around the models quickly and see what prompt works for you. So it's kind of like more for the prompt engineering. And here you have the tuning option. This is primarily for the fine tuning. If you want to create your own customized model with the base model as the Gemini 1.5 Flash, then you can do it from the tuning. So you can feed your own training data sets from your knowledge base, and you can train it. And most of the times, like you will not need the tuning itself, and you can achieve everything with the RAG architecture, because with the RAG architecture, you'll be able to control what information you feed into the model for every user request. And in case sometimes like you might not want certain information to be passed on to the anonymous users, and you want to restrict what information goes to the users, right? So all of these can be controlled with the RAG architecture. But with fine tuning, once you feed the data, it will be hard for the model to understand which one is for the anonymous users and which one is for the other users. So there will be like some complexity. But if you are building a model like which has to respond back in a unique way, maybe a code model or something, if you ask any question, it has to respond back in a different kind of way, then tuning is an option. But otherwise, everything will be achievable with the RAG architecture that we have today. And you can also build some extensions with this. And here we have the feature store datasets. Like this part is something which is more specific to people who work in the data. For example, if you have a bunch of orders, and if you want to predict the next best product for another user, for example, then you can do some analysis with these options that are available. You can create a feature store which includes the multiple dimensions of data, the user type, and then the product that they have purchased, the date they have purchased. All of these can be created as features. Like all of these dimensions are basically the features. You can say think of like attributes, and then you can inject those data sets. So if you inject those attributes, then the model, when you build some kind of predictions using these online prediction and all, it'll be able to understand what are the different dimensions that are available, and for the new user, based on the history of orders, it'll be able to predict what is the next best order, next best product which we can show for the user so they can order. Right? So those are the complex use cases that you can achieve with this. Like this is also something which you can achieve with Fabric and Azure, but here you can achieve it with the specific data section, and you can do training and all of these here, right? Like those monitoring, vector search. So when you work with any RAG implementation, search plays a major role because you have to build up the search results and get the appropriate search value to the users, right? So that's where this vector search comes in, and it will be able to help you achieve the RAG architecture, your own RAG architecture. But when you work with Agent Builder, you don't have to build your own RAG architecture. Everything comes as a package together. I'll show you shortly. And this Ray is something, it's a product from Google, which helps us to kind of like scale the training operations. Like if you want to train like a huge sets of data, then you can use like multiple missions to train the model in parallel. And all of these are achievable with Ray. Like you can minimize the training time. Right? So like you see all of these, like we're not diving into details of all of these, but then at a high level, you can see like it is useful for any complex operations and not for anything like which we may need like in the web world. So move on to the agent builder. So this is the agent builder platform. As you can see, like only two major options, right? Apps and data stores. And this is an example of an app. Like if you're trying to create an app, it will ask you what kind of app you want to create. Like if you want to search your website, you can feed your website directly. But then it will try to crawl the website and it will get all of those information. But when working with Sitecore, like we may want to like limit certain elements. So that's why I have built a module like which will index everything into the data store, like which I will be showing you shortly. But then if you want to crawl the entire site, if it's a simple site, like there is no restrictions on authentication or anything, then you can use this option. And document search, like if you want to inject any data into the Google Cloud platforms, any of those, like similar to the blob storage, like you have storages here, Google Cloud Storage. If you inject any document there, and if you want to perform a search or anything around that, so you can use these options. And media catalog, like healthcare, all of these options are available. And then you'll be able to, like when you select all of these apps, right, like you will have to show you the yeah, here is the conversational agent. Like here, this is what we have used to create. We have in today's demo, we'll be showing a conversational agent. But any of these, if you use, like the approach is pretty simple, right? Like you will select these and then you will associate it with a data store. You'll create a data store in this section and then you'll associate it with this, like just like 2-3 button clicks and you'll be done. And this is the data store that you can see. So I'll probably show you what I have created as an app here. So I've already created an app for this call today. And this is the app that I've created. And I have like two playbooks or two agents you can think of. It's an info agent. The first one is basically, this is connected to a knowledge base. Here in the instructions, you can see it just gets the information from the knowledge base tool. And I'll show you what it is. And it is where I have selected. And then if you go to the tools, I have created a knowledge base tool. And in the knowledge base tool, I have selected these options like data store. and the other options that are available are Open API. So sometimes, like, you might want to make an external API call if somebody is asking a question, like you wanted to make an external API call, and that's where you will use an Open API specification. And sometimes, like, you don't want the call to be happening behind the scenes, like from the Google's platform, and you want to make the call from the user's browser. That's when you will use the function. Okay? So you can create any of these tools. Like here in this case, I have the data store, and I have selected this Lighthouse Financial. This is what I'll show you in a minute. And we can select the model, what model we have to select, and it's very straightforward. Like, you'll just create a tool here, and then you have to come in here, and then you have to select what is the tool. And if you just like put in like something like this, it will be able to it will allow you to select the tool as well. So here you can see it's pretty straightforward. And the second agent that I have is the insight agent. So the first one is only connected with our data store, right? It is an inbuilt RAG architecture, as you can see. To the agent, if I ask any question, it goes searches in the data store by itself, the associated data store, and it will come back with the response. And its data store is kind of like a search platform, you can imagine. And it will come back with the response using the natural language processing capabilities of itself, right? Because when you provide the search results and when you pass the input, it has to understand the question and understand the context, and it has to respond back in its own language, right? So that's the help that we're taking from the model using the RAG architecture. In the RAG architecture, your model will be used only as a natural language processing capability, which is something like which is unique, right? Like, you don't do any kind of search or anything, but only as a natural language processing capability. It understands the user's question, understand the context, and then it will come up with its own response, generate a response. And so the previous one, the info agent that we saw, is connected only with the data store, which has the content either from the SharePoint or from Sitecore, right? And this agent that we see here, the insight agent, it is connected with a Google Cloud Function application, and this is connected with the real world. Here, there is one drawback in this agent builder, that you cannot directly connect this agent builder model with the Google search grounding yet, because it's still in preview mode. I'm expecting they'll be releasing it soon. But for now, what I've done is, like, I've created a tool, this Open API tool that you can see here, called Real-Time Insights. And then I've passed the specification, and here is where, like, I'm calling the Google Cloud Function. And in the Google Cloud Function, I'm basically making a call to the knowledge store that we have. And then I'm also making a call to the Google search grounding and trying to get the real world information, and combining both of these responses together and sending it back here for the user's question, which we'll be seeing in the demo shortly. Right, so this is the Open API specification that we have specified, and you can specify those authentication and all of these. And so in summary, we have two agents. The first agent is connected only with the data store, which is our knowledge base, and which is powered by Sitecore in our use case. And the second one is connected with the Google Cloud Function. And in the Google Cloud Function, we are making a Gemini API call, Gemini models, Flash models API call, where you are kind of searching the real world information from the internet, and you are responding back. So this is what I have. Any questions, team? Like, do you have any questions before I jump into the architecture and the demo of this agent builder? Sounds good.
I guess we're good.
Okay. And here is the RAG architecture for this application that we are building. And like, when you have Sitecore, if it's XM Cloud or XP, like, I've built a connect module and an SP module, which I'll be showing shortly. So what it does is, whenever a content author initiates any publish operation, it makes an API call to the data store, and it pushes the content into the data store. So everything will get indexed in the data store, and we'll be seeing that how it happens, all of that. And on top of that, it also generates embeddings. Embeddings is one of the technology in the AI, like whatever, like, you have as a text, right? Like, every word in English, like, if you think about, like, left or right, or anything that you take, like, if you take left, it has two meanings, right? If you take right, it has two meanings. Like, multiple words have multiple meanings. and it's little hard for us to achieve whatever we are trying to do with the keyword search, right? In the RAG architecture, I said search is very important, right? But if you do a keyword search, you will not be able to get the right response. So that's where embedding comes into play. Since every word has multiple meanings, uh, all of these words, and if the word, if you take the word left, depending on the sentence, wherever it's positioned, it gets a meaning based on that, wherever it's positioned in the sentence, right? And it is able to we have to interpret that accordingly, and that's the challenge with the search now, because every word has different meanings, and it's based on the sentence where we put that word in. It has to get the meaning by itself, and by the way all of these neurologists have solved this problem is they have converted this into multidimensional vector. Like any word, the word left, right? Like depending on where it's in the sentence, they convert that into a numerical vector. It's multidimensional. Like we have worked with like X, Y, Z, three-dimensional max, right? But then here you can they have multi-dimensional, like it can be even like 100 dimensions, right? So in a multi-dimensional vector space, they position all of these words, they convert this into vectors. Like every word will be converted into a numerical format and it's stored, right? So that is called embeddings. This will help us to find the appropriate document pretty quickly, right? So this generating embeddings for the content that we have, like basically converting the content into embeddings, is automatic within the Vertex AI. But when you work with Azure OpenAI, you have to do it by making an additional API call to the embedding model. But with Google, it's automatic. So when you index it with the data store, it behind the scenes it automatically generates the embeddings and it stores. And when somebody does a search, it searches based on those embeddings itself. And the other way that we can get the content into the data store is through the cloud storage. Like you can have any PDF, doc, or PPT, everything can be indexed into the cloud storage, and that can be indexed with the data store. And you have to just associate the cloud storage with the data store in just a button click, and all of these creating chunks and creating embeddings will be automatic. Creating embeddings, we saw what is embeddings, but then creating chunks is a little different. So here we have 1 million token limit, right? But if you have like 100 pages of PDF, right? So since it has only 1 million token limit, it has to be chunked into multiple files, and it has to be stored separately as separate files in the data store, right? Because we cannot generate embeddings for the entire set, and it has to be chunked and stored separately. So that is also automatic. And whenever user asks a question, all of these chunks will be combined together as a single document, and it will be responded back as well. So here you can see that all of these are just button clicks, and here for pushing the content we have these modules. And with this, all of these information that we have from Sitecore or SharePoint or cloud storage, everything will be combined together and brought into the data store, right? And when the users ask the question in the agent builder, the agent builder interface that I saw, that I showed you in the previous slide, like previous demo, that can be exported as a separate app, and it can be integrated within your website. And when a user asks a question there, and that question comes to this agent builder app, and it uses the knowledge base as a grounding, this data store as a grounding, and it responds back automatically. So without we doing any other additional work, it responds back, right? But if you want to make any other external API call to your custom API, like your order information or anything that you have, then you have to create an open API tool, and which is what we saw previously, right? So this is data store, and this is the open API, and it's required only when you have to make an external API call or Google Cloud Functions or any of those, right? And if you want to make a Google search grounding, here you have to use this open API and a Google Cloud Function, and that's where you will make the Gemini call. And I also have the code of this Google Cloud Function in the GitHub repository, which I'll show you before the end of this call. So these are the calls which Agent Builder makes automatically, and it responds back. Like whatever you see within the box, everything happens automatically, and the only thing like that we have to do is pushing the content, right? So for which we have the module. So now let's look into the demo of how all of these works. So for this demo, I've created a page within the Lighthouse demo website from Sitecore. So here under the wealth management, I've created these investments. It's basically a financial website, like where I've created a retirement investment planning options here. And this is mostly Canadian thing. Like we have RRSP, like similar to the PFs and all that you have in that we have in India, right? So similar to that, here we have RRSP, PFSA, RRF, all of these, right? So here you can see that one second, so show you specific issue. So before I publish, I wanted to show you this. So if I go in here, so I'm asking this question. So it says it doesn't have any information because I haven't indexed. Here you can see in the data store and the Lighthouse Financial, there is nothing available right now. And it basically makes the knowledge base call. So in the agent, like when I type in this, like it makes the knowledge base API call, this tool call, and it gets back with a response. It doesn't have anything because we haven't indexed anything now. And this term vehicles, if you, this is kind of like a synonym, you can think of like it's synonym based search. We say retirement investment options. The other term for retirement investment options is retirement investment vehicles. That's what I'm using here. And here, if you come back here, so right now this information is not available. And I have this module here. I'll show you the module quickly. And this is the SP module that we have. And here we have the publish in. At the end of publish in, we are basically calling the Vertex AI data store API, and you can see all of those functions that I've got. And here are some of the settings that we have. Like you can control what templates have to be indexed, and what are the fields that you have to be indexed, and some authentication settings. But in general, I won't recommend storing the authentication settings. Like this is just for the demo. But you have to like store it in a key vault or any other mechanism that you have today in your system. But yeah, this is what it happens. Like you have to create a service account in the Google authentication IAM. Like Google has something called IAM. There you have to create a service account. It's pretty straightforward. And when you created it, you will be able to get the key. It is in a certificate format, and you have to upload it into a specific location, which is specified in the GitHub repository. And then these are the Google data store settings, and all of these in-depth details are available in the GitHub. So when you install this module and when you configure all of these, and if you come back here and if you try to publish this, what it does is it makes a data store API call and it indexes the content. Here we have asked it to like pick it from the content. So this will get indexed into the data store. And if I show you the published page, here you can see we have this RRSP, these options, and like what are the estimated returns, like one of these are available within this. But then there are a few dynamic elements here, if you can think of, like it doesn't know what is the current interest rate because this interest rate keeps changing, and that impacts these ones. And there are contribution limits for each of these because these are also supported, like monitored by the government, right? Like they limit how much you can contribute to the RRSP. This is a plan from the private provider, but then the limits are determined by the government because only up to certain specific limit you can get tax exemption, right? So those amounts will be changing annually or quarterly, and also like these interest rates, like these, they can even change every month, right? So there are like several dynamic elements within this article, products that you can see here, and it's very hard for someone to keep maintaining all of these dynamic elements every day, like whenever it's updated, like coming back here and updating all of these are a little hard. When that's where the Google search grounding can help us here. So we saw the module, the SP, and this is the connect module that we have, and this is the recipe. If you're using XM Cloud, here you can create a webhook, and from that webhook, you can get the details from the items, and then you can import it into the data store. And this is one of the connectors that I've created, and all of these links and all of those JSONs are available within the GitHub repository. Here you can go to this. So this is the connector that I've created. This is built on Ruby, but it's not very complex to build. Here you can see those API calls happening here, calling those APIs and getting those responses. Right? So what it basically does is it just gets the content from Sitecore and then indexes into the agent builder. So now that we have published it, we should be able to see the document here in this data store now. So here is where this is the Sitecore item ID, and I just made that API call, and I prepared the JSON and I passed it here. Here you can see like all of those information that we supplied and the URL of this item, and then the title and the last updated time you can see like it is today's date. I think it's in UTC. And now if we come back here again, and if we ask, it should be able to respond. Sometimes it can take about like 10 minutes to propagate, but most of the times it is pretty fast. As you can see here, like it was able to respond back with the answers here. Here, if you notice, I asked this question: what are the retirement investment vehicles you have? Which is not there anywhere in our page, right? If you search for like vehicles, we don't have anything here. But it was able to understand because it works based on the embedding space search. It was able to understand that options doesn't always mean vehicles, but in this context, retirement investment planning options, the options means vehicles, right? So that's what it understood. And when I asked the question, it was able to answer, which is not possible with the keyword search, right? But it's possible with the semantic search, or otherwise called as embedding based search. And here, if a user has to ask this question in this website, right? So if they ask retirement investment vehicles, it won't respond back because we know that these search results are not structured to respond back in this way, right? It doesn't support embeddings, and it is only based on the keyword searches. So now that it's a response back with all of these answers here, I'll ask a follow-up questions. In your RRSP, and what are the expected returns? Okay. So now I'm asking it like some more details on like what you have within RRSP and what are the expected returns, and you can see here like it was so here we had the certain expected returns for this RRSP. It is able to like summarize and give the precise response for the question, right? Like so the user don't have to spend more time reading what is there, and he can just like whatever he needs, whatever is specific for his use case, he can just ask that specific question and he'll be able to get the response back. And here I have included a typo as well, but it is able to understand. Right? But if in general in keyword searches, if you put a typo, it won't be able to respond back because it just matches the exact keyword. Right? So you have like so many benefits by using this kind of semantic search and this chat experience. And but now, like if I go further deep, if I say I can contribute 50K per year, what options would you recommend? RRSP. So it's there are like 4 options, but then I'll say like TFSC. So I'll just ask this question. So here I'm going like very specific into I can contribute like 50K, right? Which is kind of here is where all of those limits come into play, but it is not able to respond back because it's connected only to the data store, right? It is not connected to the real world or the Google search grounding. So it doesn't know what is the limit for this year, and it just provides a very generic response. So now if I just go back and go back to this insight agent here, and if I ask this question, and what it basically does is it actually goes to the internet, it performs a search, and it also comes back to the knowledge base, and it sees if we provide those services, and then it combines those response, and it responds back with the answer. It makes like 2-3 AA calls, and then it comes back with the response. And here you can see it says like this is the RRSP limit 31,560, and so it recommends the person to split it into TFSA and RRSP, right? So it becomes like even more smart, right? But in certain cases, like in case if you don't want this to be exposed to your user, sometimes like it can be a backend tool for the sales people within the client organization. They can use this as a backend tool without doing any Google search or anything. Like they can do because it does the Google search for them, and it gives back all of those responses, and then the salesperson can pass on this to the person to their clients, right? So yeah, it can be a powerful tool, like in different ways. It saves a lot of time, improves the productivity, and improves the user engagement and retention as well. So yeah, multiple benefits we do have. And if you want to like troubleshoot any of these, like you have like these options here. But then if you want to like export it into your app, like you have this option of like publish. Right? So you have to embed the script that you can see here, and you can customize like how it appears and all of these. And if you want to like try it now, like it will just appear here and you can ask your question. So so yeah, and this is the GitHub repository that we have here. You can see the agent builder code. And sorry, this one, yeah, this is the exported zip. You can import this zip file into your conversational agents, this agent builder app, and you can create it as well. So I've just exported whatever I have and put it here. And this is a function app, which I was referring to. And here, if you see in the index JS, right, it has like a couple of other functions. I'm actually getting a call with this get info, like which you can see here. So yeah, this is the Google model call. All of this code is available here. So here is where I'm using those prompt and all, right? Like all of those prompt engineering you can do. And then here is where it makes a call, and here you can see the Google search retrieval, right? So this is the extra thing that I have to do. It's not supported by default within the Vertex agent builder, but then you can achieve this by using the Google search function, Google Cloud functions for now. But soon I'm expecting they'll enable that in the agent builder as well. So we are getting the knowledge agents response, and then we are getting the Google search grounding response as well here. And then we are preparing the agent response by combining both of these together, and we are passing it back. So whatever we passed it back through this from the Google Search Cloud agent can be actually seen here, and then this is the response that you see. And here I have the Sitecore Connect module, the Connect SDK that I have got, that I showed you, and then this recipe that we are seeing in the previous one, and then the SPE module as well. So I've serialized everything and I put it here. So all of these are available, and you can see everything, the README instructions within this file, like all of those step-by-step instructions on how you can integrate what you'll see. All of those are available here. And I've also included the SDK as well. So here this has the link to this specific SDK, and you don't have to import the JSON and all. You can just like click on it, and I've shared it using this share option that I just copied the link and I've posted it there. So you should be able to directly install it. And the recipe also I've shared it using the link, and you can create it like without even importing or. So yeah, I think this is what it is. So yeah, do you guys have any questions so far? Does this make sense? Like what we are doing, and so what we are trying to achieve? Like what are the benefits?
Yeah, super interesting to me. I haven't actually worked on this side of things, so that was good. Um, if anyone has any other comments, just feel free to unmute yourself. Right? I guess we're good for now.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and yeah, we saw the demo, and I had a recorded demo as well. Like in case sometimes it takes about 10 minutes to propagate, and if it was not available, so I had a recorded demo. And here we have the resources, the GitHub repository that we saw, and the Sitecore Connect connector, and then the Google Cloud Console. Here is where like you have to create your service account, and all of these Vertex AJA agent builder app and everything, and the Vertex AI documentation that you can see here. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, if you guys have any further questions, you can reach out to me or Slack, and please do try this module. And and let me know your feedback, any other improvements that we can make, any other suggestions that you have. Please feel free to reach out to me.
Great. Thank you so much, Subbu. Does anyone have any
I
questions?
have one question.
Go
Sure.
ahead, Charu.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Subramanian. So I think it's a very good sessions, and thank you so much for the session. Just want to know if anyone wants to use this module, is it all free? Is it all kind of available, or we would need some licensing to use?
Yeah. The module itself is free. It's open source. I've put it in GitHub, and you can see the instructions and everything. So it's there is no license or anything. It's just free, and you can also extend it as well. So after you install this module, it's built on Sitecore PowerShell. You can extend it. Sitecore Connect also you can extend it for your specific needs. And for the Vertex agent builder, two things you have to remember. One is there will be cost for the Gemini AI calls that we make if you're using the Google search grounding. But then the cost is lower on the lower side, like it's not too much, but then there is cost for that. And then there is cost for the agent builder app itself. So you have to look at the cost and see how much inputs you can expect every month, and then compute the cost and make sure it works for your client.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if there are no more questions, then we can probably wrap for the day.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks everyone team for joining. It was I really enjoyed presenting it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out over Slack.